Welcome to Cutting Down the Nets on the last day of February. This will be a unique show today. There are very few plays, so I am going to go into far more detail of the sausage being made. That's what she said. So this should be fun. We're going to actually get into the code, run some simulations, play with some things, and just see how that affects the outcome. And I think overall that will make you a better understanding the range of outcomes and things like that. So should be fun. Um, this schedule only has like 20 games and over half are back to back. So I'm out on that. It's up to you if you want to play them. Let's get down to business. We finally are starting to turn the tide a little bit. The Credence is playing. We went 6-3. And as promised, we keep climbing, and we're not going to stop until we beat the VIG. Yesterday provided so many unnecessary sweats, it was disgusting. Like Albany leading by 19 with 3 minutes to go and still making you sweat, covering 5. Georgia Tech winning by 14 with, I think, 90 seconds to go, still making you sweat, covering 4.5. New Orleans giving up a banked 3 at the end of regulation to force overtime as a 4.5 point dog. These things are just frustrating. Luckily, we held on to each of those, but that is that's just how it goes sometimes. So here is today's pool. And the games shaded in red are back-to-backs. So I will just not be touching those. But it's up to you. I mean, if you want to go there, you can go there. I have not had success getting that right. And it could be, I could look into it more of like, if they didn't cover the first time, I'm not playing that type of game. So you can look into it. I think they're strong plays, but for whatever reasons, back-to-backs have been an issue. So that leaves us with 3 games to kind of choose from, and these are razor-thin margins today, in my opinion. We have Western Kentucky with a big number. We've got Albany and Hartford squaring off in the America East Tournament. Yes, that actually started yesterday, so this is round 2. And then South Florida and Houston with a big number as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the first 2 games that aren't back-to-backs, and we're going to actually cap those, run simulations, check cover percentages, and things like that. So it should be kind of fun. Other 2 games on the schedule worth noting are Nova and Butler. I've got it super close to what Vegas does, and Iowa Ohio State. It opened as Ohio State -3. I had 3.4. It's currently Ohio State -4. And obviously my number did not change. So let's make some sausage. This is my program. This is not the kind of secret formulas as to how I come up with the efficiencies, but we're going to actually run some simulations here. So game number 1, we're going to look at Albany at Hartford. I already went through and projected their efficiencies, and I came up with Albany at 98.9 and 101. These standard deviation numbers matter. So earlier I've mentioned teams that are 2 variant. What it does is it just spreads out the outcome so much that you lose some predictability. So I'll be able to visually show you that here in a minute. And then Hartford, I put theirs in at 95, 97.5. They have a little more variance in theirs. Current line is 1.5, meaning this is the home line. So that means that Albany is favored by 1.5. If Hartford was favored by 1.5, the point spread would be -1.5. Okay, what we're going to do, we run 10,000 simulations. I could change this to 1,000,000 if I want. It just takes forever, and the results don't really change once you get around 10,000. Even 1,000 gets you close, but it doesn't take too long, so why not do it? This just says take my efficiencies and their standard deviations, match them up, and give me all the possible outcomes. What if they're at the high end of their standard deviation? What if they're at the low end? What if they both are at the high? What if they both are at the low? It's kind of fun. So then you run the simulation and it will tell you what percent of the time people covered. Because what it's going to do is it's going to play this game 10,000 times. Sometimes Albany wins by 38 points. Sometimes Hartford wins by 45 points. Those are potential outcomes, certainly not likely outcomes, but potential. And you'll be able to see that spread. So all we got to do is push play. It's kind of fun. So we'll wait for the file to appear here. It takes about a second. And based on what we have put in at the current line of 1.5, we have Albany covering the spread 46.75% of the time and Hartford 53.25% of the time. You can tell me if you think that is good enough to bet. I'm going to list it today. The median outcome was Hartford winning by 2.7 points, and that will fluctuate as you run these. But look at this spread. It's kind of hard to tell in this data set, so we'll look at the actual plot of this game. All right, so here it is, Hartford's home line. That red line is the point spread. The blue is the number of outcomes in this simulation. So are there more outcomes in the Hartford favor, meaning less than the point spread of 1.5? Yes, but look at how many still occur on the other side of this game. This is why gambling is hard, to be honest with you. And I used to live in kind of a binary world. Like I said, the game would be 9, they have 6. It's either going to be 9 or 6, and obviously there are a lot of outcomes available. So that is an interesting scenario. It's close. There's a little bit of value on Hartford. What if this line moved? This is the beauty of this. Let's switch that to a pick'em. Point spread is now 0. We hit play again. And it will pop up in just a second. Now, if it's a pick'em, we actually have Albany covering more, but neither in a good position. Both close to 50%. Look at the plot, and you'll see that it's pretty evenly distributed. Okay? We go back. What if Albany caught some steam and that went from 1.5 to 2.5? Let's run that. Survey says now getting 2.5 points, it bumps up Hartford a little bit, 56.9%. That's a strong bet. 1.5 is an okay bet. 2.5 is a great bet. Pick'em is an awful bet. Either way. But just show you how much the point spread matters if I put in -4, meaning same game, same scenario, but Hartford happened to be favored by 4 when the line came out. You can see how that would affect the outcome. This is addicting stuff, by the way, and we will do this for every game for the NCAA tournament, without a doubt. We'll also get into, this is projecting the likelihood of point spread landing on either side of that line. We're going to get into money lines. So money lines is fun because it'll say like, okay, this team has a 72% chance of winning. How does that compare to the current money line of minus 350, whatever it may be? So is there value in betting minus 350? We said they're going to win 70% of the time. There's equations there that you can actually calculate your expected value and find out if it's a plus EV bet or not. So without further ado, we're going to stop screwing with this line. We are going to begrudgingly bet Hartford. But as you saw, I wouldn't play anything worse than 1.5. That's how tight today's situation kind of is. So those are the efficiencies I used. One final exercise I'll do is we'll return this point spread to where it was supposed to be, 1.5. And let's say we were torn on how to forecast Albany's offense. And maybe we were close there. And we want to change it from 98.9 to 99.9. What does that do? How much do those changes affect the likelihood of covering or not? So back to original point spread. We just bumped up Albany's offense a little bit. Hartford came down a touch, but pretty close to what the original number was. What if we had more variance in the game? So these standard deviations were 17 instead of 7. And we'll return the Albany forecast back to where it was. So we put some more variance in. It's likely that the median outcome doesn't change, but the plot would look significantly different. So that brought it down a little bit because the outcomes stretch out a little more. So it's just some interesting stuff, at least I think, and I think it helps you understand the range of outcomes in a game more than, Kane said it'd be 10 and it's 7, so that's a great bet. It's important to see what that looks like. So next game, we are going to put in FIU, and they are playing Western Kentucky. Here's the deal. My program can do all this automatically. I don't want to run it for the entire schedule, and I don't want to go through 20 games in detail, or the show would be, I don't know, like an hour, I would say. FIU plays pretty fast, 74.3. Their standard deviation was 3. I am using 95.4 for their offense with a deviation of 13. And 110 for their defense, deviation of 11. Western Kentucky, led by Bassey, 69.7. Put a 3 in for their standard deviation. And 105.2 I have for their offense, and that is fairly predictable. And their defense is at a 96. And we have a 7 for standard deviation. They are currently favored by 16 points. So minus 16 is in. FIU at Western Kentucky. And we run. And we see survey says Western Kentucky covering 54% of the time. Again, over 10,000 games, that means 4,561 times Western Kentucky does not cover this number. So when it doesn't happen, don't be shocked. But there is a greater likelihood of it happening, according to my data. What's their plot look like? Here's the line at minus 16. There are more outcomes on the Western Kentucky side versus the FIU side. Let's play with the spread a little bit. It opened at 16.5 when I went to bed last night. I did not think there would actually be any plays today because this one was sitting at 16.5. The Albany-Hartford spread was not out yet, given that it's in the middle of a conference tourney, and that felt light, 53.15. But, I don't know, it's fair. What if it went up to 17? Are we still going to play it at 17? I'm not sure about that one. It's probably going to be in the high 51s would be my guess. 52.1. Yeah, I'm out on that, and I'm barely in on minus 16. But imagine not having to play. What if we get this thing down to 15.5? Still risk with a large number, in my opinion. A lot of things have to go right for that to happen. but getting a little stronger at 15.5. Nothing great. We had some games yesterday that were without getting creative, 58, 59%, which certainly is a lot more fun to lock in than one of these. So again, that's if the line shifted a little bit. Current line is 16, and I always put this in to print out so I know what I'm using. Make sure I didn't like get creative and then see likelihood and go for it. So you may find this extremely boring. I love this. And for March Madness, we'll go through each one. And for brackets, it'll help with win percentages. So team A, 70% chance to win versus 30%. You move them on in your bracket. And then you can kind of find those 50-50 games and make decisions based on how big your pool is and stuff like that. So kind of fun in my opinion. So should we lock it in? Let's do it. Let's put in Western Kentucky as game number 2. That is Ty Rodgers after hitting the game-winning shot over Drake in one of the greatest basketball games ever played, whether you believe it or not. That was awesome. That was fun. Okay, so Western Kentucky minus 16. I'm putting here play minus 16 or better. I am not liking how thin these margins are today, but I wanted to have some plays. So now you see kind of how I make those decisions, and hopefully that gives you more confidence in choosing whether or not you're going to roll with what I'm picking. And it's a nice little preview for the longer March Madness shows as we go region by region. Well, tomorrow's March. We made it. It's February 28th. So good luck today. Cash in some bets. And thanks for stopping by, cutting down the nets.